Betrayal. It's the only word for it. The only word for the chilling reality we now face. 9 of Britain's most senior military commanders, men who have led our nation in battle from the sands of Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan, have done the unthinkable. They have been compelled to sound the alarm. Not against a foreign enemy massing on our borders, but against the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. They have penned a letter of no confidence, a desperate warning shot across the bow of a government steering our nation towards catastrophic ruin. Their message, stripped of all political nicety, is brutally clear: Keir Starmer is a direct threat to the national security of Great Britain. The foundations of our defence are crumbling, from a deliberate internal rot. These are not politicians or talking heads. These are warriors. Men who have buried their friends, who sent soldiers into harm's way, who know the price of freedom in blood and sacrifice. And they are telling you, in the starkest possible terms, that the man in number 10 is dismantling the very shield that protects us all. The question is no longer if our military will be broken, but who will be left to defend you when it finally is. You will not see the truth of this on the BBC. They will frame it as a petty political spat, a simple disagreement over legal technicalities and budgetary constraints. They'll say it's disgruntled generals unable to accept a new government. They are lying. They are complicit. Because this is not a mistake. This is not some unfortunate administrative oversight. It is a deliberate, calculated, and systematic campaign of sabotage against the fighting spirit of Great Britain. They have a name for it in the corridors of power, a sterile term for something truly sinister: lawfare. The use of our own legal system as a weapon of war. And its primary, designated target is the British soldier. Every man and woman who wears our flag on their arm, who pledges an oath to the crown, is now being told to fear the lawyer in London more than the enemy in the field. This is the great betrayal. A secret war being waged by our own political class to neuter our warriors, to make them hesitant, to make them second-guess, to make them afraid. A young corporal, under fire in some dusty hellhole, will now have to pause before pulling the trigger, not just considering the enemy in his sights, but the activist judge in Strasbourg who might prosecute him a decade from now. The motive? It is a quiet, fanatical crusade to subordinate British military strength to the whims of foreign courts and a globalist ideology that despises national sovereignty. Starmer, the quintessential human rights lawyer, isn't just failing our military through incompetence, he is actively and purposefully dismantling its very soul, brick by painful brick. This is the devastating, two-tier Britain that Starmer and his ideologues are building before our very eyes. A system of grotesque moral inversion where our heroes are punished and our enemies are rewarded, where loyalty is treated as a crime and lawbreaking is met with state-funded comfort. On one side of this chasm, you have the British soldier. The young lad from Liverpool or Glasgow or a forgotten town in the valleys. He didn't have a privileged start, but he had pride. He signed up to serve his country, to follow in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. He deploys to the most dangerous, God-forsaken places on earth, makes life-or-death decisions in the blink of an eye to protect his comrades and advance our nation's interests. He sees things no person should ever have to see. He comes home with scars, both visible and invisible, carrying the ghosts of fallen friends. And what is his reward for this ultimate sacrifice? He returns home to the ever-present threat of prosecution, decades later, for doing the very job we sent him to do. He is forced to watch as his brothers in arms, old men in their 70s and 80s who fought the Provisional IRA, are dragged through the courts, their life savings drained, their reputations destroyed, their final years consumed by fear and legal torment. He walks past the estimated 6,000 of his fellow veterans sleeping rough on our own streets. Shivering in shop doorways, completely abandoned by the country they swore an oath to defend. This is his Britain. A nation that treats its bravest defenders with utter, unforgivable contempt. And then, there is the other tier. The new, favored class. Just yesterday, another 400 illegal migrants crossed the English Channel in dinghies. They broke our laws. They paid people smuggling gangs. They passed through a dozen safe European countries to get here. And what was their punishment for this flagrant violation of our sovereignty? A room in a 3-star hotel. 3 hot meals a day. Legal aid. Spending money. The potential for hundreds of pounds a week in benefits, all funded by you, the British taxpayer. While our veterans freeze on the pavement, illegal arrivals are kept in taxpayer-funded warmth. While our soldiers face endless legal persecution for serving their country, Starmer's government is actively considering putting former IRA terrorists on a commission to judge the actions of those very same soldiers. Think about that for a moment. Let the sheer, sickening depravity of it sink in. The terrorist is given a seat at the table of judgment, while the soldier is put in the dock. This isn't just a policy failure, it is a profound moral sickness that has infected the heart of our government. It is the deliberate elevation of our enemies and the calculated humiliation of our protectors. It is unforgivable. The architect of this national nightmare is Sir Keir Starmer. Do not ever forget his background. He is not a statesman forged in the crucible of real-world experience. He is a lawyer. The former director of public prosecutions who has built his entire career, his entire worldview, on the very legal frameworks that are now strangling our armed forces. This is the man who oversaw the Crown Prosecution Service when it failed to prosecute the gangs of grooming predators in our northern towns, yet now presides over a system obsessed with prosecuting our old soldiers. His knighthood wasn't for services to the British people, it was a reward from the establishment for being one of them, for upholding their globalist creed. His Attorney General, a man named Lord Hermer, has a particularly disgusting entry on his CV. He personally represented the IRA's Gerry Adams. Let that sink in. The government's top lawyer, the man who advises the cabinet on matters of national security, chose to defend the political leader of the terror group that murdered over 1,000 British soldiers, policemen, and civilians. His deputy, the ever-eloquent Angela Rayner, couldn't even be bothered to spell the word remembrance correctly in a social media post. Don't let anyone tell you it was a simple typo. It was a Freudian slip, a moment of accidental honesty that reveals their movement's complete and utter disdain for our history, our traditions, and our fallen. This is the modern Labour Party, a metropolitan cabal of activists, academics, and lawyers who see our military not as a source of national pride and strength, but as a thuggish, embarrassing problem to be managed, a force to be restrained by their beloved European Convention of Human Rights. And who stands against them? The heroes of this story are the 9 generals, the lions who have risked their careers and reputations to speak the unvarnished truth. They are the voices of the silenced ranks, the serving soldiers who cannot speak out for fear of reprisal. They are the growing political force of Reform UK, led by the one man the establishment truly fears, Nigel Farage, the only party leader with the raw courage to demand we leave the ECHR entirely and restore our national sovereignty. And the greatest heroes are you. The British people, who instinctively understand the betrayal. The people whose boos echo around the cenotaph when a man like Starmer dares to lay a wreath. The people who are finally, blessedly, waking up to the scale of this treachery. The establishment fears your awakening more than any foreign army. This is the precipice. The moment of decision. The foundations of our national defense are cracking under the immense weight of this political assault from within. Our enemies, as the generals so rightly wrote in their letter, are not just watching, they are rubbing their hands with glee. They see a Britain weakened, divided, and led by a man who trusts foreign judges in a court in France more than he trusts his own battle-hardened soldiers. They see a nation that has lost its will. The heartbreaking words of a 100-year-old World War II veteran, a man from the greatest generation, now hang heavy in the air. When asked by a journalist if he thought the immense sacrifice of his generation was worth it, he looked around at the state of the Britain we have allowed to emerge, and he said, simply, no. No. Let that one word haunt the conscience of our political class. We have failed him. We have failed them all. The question that now confronts every single one of us is this: will we continue to fail? Will we stand by in silent complicity and watch as our armed forces are hollowed out, demoralized, and ultimately destroyed by a fifth column of lawyers and activists who despise everything they stand for? Or will we finally find our voice, stand with the generals, and demand the immediate and total restoration of our nation's honor and its sovereignty? The choice is yours, and it has never been clearer. Are you on the side of the British soldier, the young man who writes a blank check to this country for an amount up to and including his life? Or are you on the side of the human rights lawyer, the man who profits from questioning that sacrifice? There is no middle ground. There is no room for apathy. Show the corrupt political class in Westminster that we stand with our troops, always. Share this video with every single person you know. Force them to hear the truth the mainstream media is desperately trying to hide. Comment "Veterans First" below to send a message so loud they cannot possibly ignore it. Subscribe to this channel, and join the resistance. The fight for the soul of Britain has truly begun.